Hi year 8s, for those of you that don't know me yet, my name is Adrian, I'm the art assistant at OLMC. This is the first of 3 videos that I have made for you guys showing you how to create an Adrian Wong style still life painting using your watercolor disc. In this lesson, we're just going to be testing out our paints, so you're going to need your disc of watercolors, your paintbrush, a pencil, a ruler and an eraser, and a roll of paper towel from your kitchen. Hope you enjoy the video and get a lot out of it, and I hope to see you soon. Hello year 8s, today I'm going to be showing you how to test out all of your different watercolor paints, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how to use your brush and how to use your watercolor palette to get paint precisely where you want the paint to be. It's important to note that watercolor is a really beautiful medium and it allows you to get really interesting textures, but an important part of this project is that we're getting flat areas of color and trying to put it in specific areas marked out by, grey lead. So I want to make sure that you're able to place paint really precisely. A lot of this is going to focus on brush care, so we might start by talking a little bit about your brush. Your brush is a precision instrument. Now, I've used this brush quite a few times and you can see that I've managed to retain the really fine point that the brush has. That's really critical because for you to be able to put paint where you need the paint to go, you need the brush to come to a really, really fine point. So the trick to that is washing your brush carefully. When you first receive your brush in the mail, it should look kind of like this. It should have kind of starch in it or glue holding it to a fine point, which is just something the manufacturer does to help them transport the brush. You want to wash your brush to begin with under running water. What we want to do is we want to hold our brush like this so that the running water pushes the paint out of the bristles of the brush. You don't ever want to squash the brush on the bottom of the sink. Same thing when you're using your tub of water to clean your brush. That will damage the bristles and make them splay out kind of like this, and it'll turn your brush from a nice precision instrument into a mop. If you don't already have it, go and pause this video and grab a roll of paper towel from your kitchen. You'll need this the entire time that you're making watercolor paintings. I like to tear off a little wad of it and just place it next to my tub of water for cleaning my brush, which brings us to our tubs of water. Now, all of you should use 2 separate tubs of water. I use one for cleaning the brush and one for using the brush to agitate colors and get new colors off the palette. Doing this means that all your dirty water ends up in one tub and you can use nice clean water for getting new paint out of your palette. One final thing to note before we grit up our paper for putting all of our color down, the reason why we're doing this. So you might have noticed that on your palette you have a range of different, for instance, blues. All of these blues may look kind of similar to you on the palette, but we want to try them out because they're actually going to achieve really different results on the paper. So for instance, they'll have different textures. You may be able to see that there's a sort of a cauliflowery, sort of bloomy sort of texture to some of these blues, whereas this darker, heavier blue, it's got a really inky look where it's kind of soaked into the paper very nicely. You can see a similar thing with the browns. I mean, the browns in their tablet form look really similar, but you can see that when you actually try them out, they achieve really different results. So now let's get on to gritting up our paper so that we can try out our paints. For this, you're going to need a ruler and a pencil and an eraser. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my ruler at the top of my paper and mark 3 centimeter increments, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, so on, 21, 24, 27. I'm going to go down here and do the same on this side of the page. Okay. Now I'm going to go across and connect up all of these with lines. When I'm drawing straight lines, I like to hold the pencil really far back and lightly, just press it against the ruler and just go in one nice even stroke. Now I want to divide my page in half. This piece of paper is 21 centimeters wide, as all A4 pieces of paper are. So I'm going to go to 10.5 and mark 10.5. Might do it with the ruler the right way around just to make things simple for the video. And finally, I'm just going to use my ruler like this to rule a line here and make my boxes, and here. We've got our brand new clean brush. This is our tub for washing our brush. Once we've washed our brush, just agitated in the water there, you just want to kind of dry it off by using a little bit of the paper towel like this. And the paper towel will soak some of the water from the brush. Then we get our clean water from over here and we start to agitate the paint on the palette. When you're kind of trying to use the water to release the color from the tablet, you don't want to push the brush like this Like, we're not trying to squash the brush. Again, that's the same thing as kind of squashing it on the bottom of the sink. You're just going to destroy your brush, and you need your brush to be in perfect shape to get a good result. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of brush by pulling the brush over the top of the tablet like this. I like to, for the last couple of strokes, I like to turn the brush around just a bit like this so that it comes to a really fine point before I apply my paint. Now I'm going to put white in this square, so I'm going to start on this third square down and I'm going to start to apply paint. So when I'm doing this, I've got two sides of the brush, right? I can see the bristles over here, but I can't see what's happening underneath the brush. So what I want to do is I want to be able to flip or move my paper around quite a bit while I'm painting. So I'm going to start by trying to paint this edge. And the reason why I'm going to do this is because I can see that the tip of the bristles is going to go right near this edge here. And I can really just gently push the paint over and just fill in that square. But I can't see what's going to happen here. So I'm not going to try and paint all the way to this line because I can't see what's happening underneath the brush. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to gradually bring the paint over and I'm going to flip my brush. So now, or my piece of paper, so now I can apply the paint and see where the tip of the bristles is going to apply paint to the paper. And that should allow me to get a really, really neat, even result. When you first put a brush stroke down, the paint will kind of sit on the surface of the paper, and as you apply subsequent brush strokes, they'll kind of merge together to create a uniform sort of area. You don't want to kind of put a little bit down and then wait 5 minutes and then put the next bit down right next to it. As I mentioned before, I'm going to clean my brush in my dirty water, which is over here. And I'm going to just kind of soak up the excess water from the bristles using the paper towel here. Once again, I'm just kind of pulling the brush over the tablet of paint. If you start trying to push it around too much, you're going to agitate the paper and the paper's going to break up and pulp sort of into little pieces. I'm going to go through and put down all the rest of my colors. So just keeping in mind, in between all the colors, I'm going to use my dirty water here to clean my brush. And then I'm going to grab clean water from my tub over here. Notice as I paint, I leave a tiny little bit of white in between each of my units of color. If these two colors start connecting and the two paints are still a bit wet, one of them's going to bleed into the other and it'll kind of blend the two colors together. I don't want that in this case, so I'm going to make sure that I leave that little bit of area just in between where the grey lead line is. When it's new like this, it's going to take a little bit more time and patience for you to get the pigment out of the tablet. This is a really interesting thing to know, just how totally different these two textures are. This one's very opaque, like it makes a really uniform brown on the surface of the paper. This one, no matter what I do, it kind of stays kind of streaky and has these interesting marks embedded in it of the paintbrush and the soaking water on the surface of the paper. I know my brush is pretty clean now because when I put it in the water and then I put it on the paper towel, I can see that almost no color is coming off that. Now the white's a really interesting color. It's not really a traditional watercolor color. Usually the way watercolor works, which we haven't even discussed yet, is a little bit different to other paints, for instance acrylic paint. You get your pale areas by using the white of the paper. So for instance, because we've got a lighter green here, part of the reason that green is lighter is because it's a really thin transparent layer with the white of the paper showing through it. So we don't want to make our light greens or anything. Usually we wouldn't make them by adding white to them. Our white color might come in handy later, so we're going to try it out. But really, the goal with your painting should be to make lighter colors by using a little bit more water and a little bit less of the actual color, and just leaving some more of the paper exposed. So that's really the way we want to think about it. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to come through in camera, but it's really interesting just how different the white paint is to the actual white of the paper. Like it's almost a bit chalky or something like that. But yeah, we can kind of see now what each of our colors looks like, and it's really interesting, just something to take note of and just remember what they're all going to kind of look like. It'll give you a good sense of how they're going to work. Now from this point, now that we've finished this part of the task, I'm just going to clean off the excess paint from my brush, once again in my dirty water, soak off all the water using the paper towel, throw my paper towel in the bin, replace this water before the next task, replace this water before the next task for sure. Yeah, we'll get to our next task, which is mixing some of our secondary colors.